There is a war that has been raging since the dawn of time. It is older than nations, older than kings and empires, older even than the first sharpened stone or carved spear. It is a war that exists in every generation, every society, and every individual heart. And it has nothing to do with guns, tanks, or battlefield strategies. It is the war within the human soul, the battle between who we are and who we must become. But here is the uncomfortable truth. War is not just something that happens out there in the world. War is woven into the fabric of life itself. It is the struggle that gives birth to growth, the friction that sharpens character, the challenge that forces humanity to rise. Every blade of grass must fight to break through the soil. Every eagle must fight to escape the safety of its shell. And every human being, whether they want to admit it or not, must fight through seasons of pain, loss, failure, and self-doubt to ever taste the fullness of their potential. The question is not whether there will be war in your life. The question is whether you will surrender or stand, whether you will retreat or rise. Carl Jung once wrote, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." What does that mean? It means the greatest light is born from the greatest darkness. The most extraordinary breakthroughs are often forged in the fires of trial and adversity. Look at history. Thomas Edison endured thousands of failed experiments before birthing the electric light. Abraham Lincoln lost election after election, endured depression so deep it nearly swallowed him, yet still rose to become the president who would hold a fractured nation together. Henry Ford was mocked, bankrupted, and left behind by competitors before creating an automobile empire that changed the world. Each of these men fought wars, not with armies, but within themselves. They fought the inner voices that said, "Quit." They fought the humiliation of failure, the scorn of doubters, the temptation to settle for less than the vision they carried inside. The psychology of war is the psychology of life. You cannot escape the battle. You cannot hide from it. And if you try to live without struggle, without sacrifice, without the fire that forges you, you will die having never truly lived. The battlefield is your mind. It always has been. Every fear, every insecurity, every excuse you cling to, these are your enemies. And the greatest mistake you could ever make is to believe those enemies live outside of you. They do not. They live within. That is why so many people lose. They spend their lives trying to change the world around them while leaving their own inner world in chaos. They want perfect circumstances. They want no resistance. They want to be comfortable. But life does not reward comfort, it rewards courage. War is the price of becoming who you were meant to be. And yet, even as we say this, there is another truth. Human beings have always fought each other. The history of our species is scarred with blood and conquest, with tribes rising and falling, with empires built and destroyed. But why must humans, capable of such breathtaking beauty and innovation, also seem addicted to conflict? Because at the core of the human condition is hunger. The hunger for power. The hunger for resources. The hunger for survival. But beneath all of that, a deeper hunger, the hunger for identity. People fight because they want to matter. They want to know they have a place in this world. And when that sense of identity feels threatened, when fear creeps in, they fight. This is why the greatest wars in history often began in the smallest corners of the human heart. A wounded ego, a fear of scarcity, a lust for control. These internal shadows, when left unchecked, grow into collective nightmares. And yet, those same shadows, when faced with honesty and courage, can transform us. Jung understood this. He said we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. You cannot pretend you are not capable of anger, jealousy, violence, or hatred. You must face those forces. Understand them. Integrate them. Because what you refuse to face within yourself will one day erupt outside yourself. This is why so many leaders have brought ruin to themselves and their nations. They refused to fight the war within, so the war consumed the world around them. But when you face your inner war, when you learn to master your own mind, something extraordinary happens. You begin to realize that the real enemy was never other people. It was always the fear, the laziness, the self-doubt, the old wounds, the limiting beliefs inside you. The true warrior is not the one who crushes others. The true warrior is the one who conquers himself. Think about the greatest generals, visionaries, and builders in history. They were not merely tacticians. They were disciplined minds, unshaken by chaos, willing to sacrifice for a cause bigger than themselves. Julius Caesar, though his empire would one day collapse, became a master of focus and decisive action. Winston Churchill, facing the darkest hours of World War II, refused to give in to despair even when all odds were against him. What was it that kept them standing? It was the unbreakable knowledge that life will test you, that you will be knocked down, betrayed, misunderstood, and yet, you must rise anyway. Because there is a law woven into the universe. You cannot evolve without friction. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Steel is tempered by fire. And you are no different. But here is where so many lose the war. They fight the wrong battles. They waste their energy on petty conflicts, on proving themselves to people who do not matter, on seeking validation instead of purpose. They fight for comfort instead of growth. And so, when the real battle comes, the one that determines the course of their life, they have no strength left. If you want to win in life, you must choose your battles wisely. Ask yourself, is this fight making me stronger or weaker? Is this battle worthy of my time, my energy, my life? Because not every hill is worth dying on. The psychology of war is the psychology of focus. When you know your mission, you can endure any hardship. When you are unclear, you will be destroyed by distractions. This is why purpose is everything. When a soldier knows what he is fighting for, he will crawl through mud, starve, freeze, bleed, and keep going. But if he forgets the mission, the smallest obstacle will break him. What is your mission? What are you willing to fight for? Because until you decide, life will throw you into 1,000 meaningless battles. You will wake up each day feeling pulled in 100 directions, reacting to everything instead of directing your destiny. And nothing will change until you plant your feet, draw the line, and declare, "This is who I am. This is where I stand. This is what I will fight for." And make no mistake, you will be tested the moment you make that decision. Life will see how badly you want it. It will hit you with setbacks, betrayals, failures. But if you refuse to break, if you refuse to give up, you will discover a strength you never knew you had. Because the war is never really about winning or losing. It is about becoming. The war is about becoming the kind of person who can stand in the fire and not be consumed. It is about growing roots so deep that no storm can rip you from the ground. It is about becoming unshakable in a world that is constantly trying to shake you. And to do that, you must understand this. Life will never hand you peace on a silver platter. Peace is not given, peace is earned. It is earned through discipline. It is earned through perseverance. It is earned through the willingness to endure hardship without losing your sense of purpose. This is why warriors train in times of peace. Because when the moment of crisis arrives, there is no time to prepare. You must already be ready. Ask yourself, are you training for your life? Or are you hoping you'll figure it out when the battle begins? History is filled with the graves of those who waited until it was too late. Entire civilizations collapsed because they grew soft, distracted, complacent. The Roman Empire, once unstoppable, rotted from within. The Mongols, feared conquerors of the world, became fractured by their own greed. These collapses didn't happen overnight. They began in the heart. They began when leaders stopped fighting their inner wars. You see, external war always mirrors internal war. Nations fall when they lose discipline, when they trade strength for comfort, when they stop holding themselves accountable. The same is true of individuals. Look at your own life. Where have you grown soft? Where have you allowed excuses to creep in? Where have you surrendered to comfort? Because the war is not about perfection. It is about awareness. It is about seeing the enemy before it overruns your gates. And the enemy is not always obvious. It often disguises itself as harmless. It whispers, "Relax. You deserve a break." It tells you, "You can do it tomorrow." It seduces you with distractions, with entertainment, with anything that will dull your edge. But a warrior knows that every small decision matters. Every day you either strengthen your position or weaken it. Every choice is a vote for the person you are becoming. The ancient Spartans understood this better than anyone. They were raised to see life as a battlefield. They trained relentlessly. They valued discipline over comfort, honor over fear. And because of that, 300 Spartans at Thermopylae could stand against an army of thousands and inspire the world for centuries. Now, I am not asking you to live like a Spartan, but I am asking you this: how seriously are you taking your life? Because if you want extraordinary results, you cannot live an ordinary existence. You cannot drift. You cannot hope. You must fight. And yet, here is the paradox. The more you master the inner war, the less you will need to fight the outer wars. Think about it. Most conflict in the world comes from fear and insecurity. People lash out because they feel small, powerless, unseen. But when you know who you are, when you are rooted in your mission, you do not need to prove yourself through violence or domination. This is the deeper psychology of war. The more we avoid our inner battles, the more we project them outward. We start to see enemies everywhere because we are at war with ourselves. This is why Jung warned that the shadow, the dark, unacknowledged part of the psyche, must be faced. If you deny it, it will control you. And when it controls you, you will hurt others, sometimes in ways you cannot even see. But when you integrate your shadow, when you accept that you are capable of both greatness and destruction, you can choose consciously. You can direct your strength toward building instead of breaking. This is the journey of every true warrior. It is the journey of Gandhi, who faced the violence of his oppressors not with hatred, but with unshakable resolve. It is the journey of Nelson Mandela, who emerged from 27 years of imprisonment without bitterness, choosing reconciliation over revenge. It is the journey of Martin Luther King Jr., who stood in the face of brutality and declared, "I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear." These men understood that the war is not always about defeating someone else. The war is about mastering yourself so completely that no external force can make you compromise your values. And that mastery requires a rare kind of strength. Because it is easy to lash out. It is easy to let anger control you. It is easy to be a victim of your own impulses. But it takes courage to pause, to breathe, to rise above your instincts. It takes courage to choose purpose over pride, vision over vengeance. Do you want to know why humanity continues to fight? It is because this inner evolution is difficult. It is because fear is easier than love, because domination feels safer than vulnerability. But you are not here to take the easy path. You are here to fight the battles that matter. And one of the greatest battles you will ever face is the battle against your own excuses. Because your excuses are seductive. They will tell you, it's not your fault. They will tell you, you can't help it. They will tell you, this is just the way things are. But here is the truth, your life is the sum of the choices you make. And every excuse is a choice to stay small. If you want to win the war, you must hold yourself to a higher standard. You must demand more from yourself than the world demands of you. You must refuse to settle for mediocrity even when everyone around you is settling. This is how empires are built. This is how legacies are forged. It is not about luck. It is not about talent. It is about relentless commitment. Edison did not invent the light bulb because he was the smartest man alive. He invented it because he refused to stop after 10 failures. Or 100. Or 1,000. Lincoln did not become one of the greatest presidents in history because he was born into power. He became great because he refused to let defeat define him. You have that same power inside you. But you must wake it up. You must step into the arena, even when you feel unprepared, even when you feel afraid. Because here is the secret. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision that something else matters more. And the moment you make that decision, the moment you decide that your mission, your purpose, your future is worth fighting for, everything changes. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop living like a prisoner in your own life. Instead, you rise. You rise like the soldier who refuses to abandon his post. You rise like the mother who fights for her child. You rise like the leader who carries an entire nation's hope on their shoulders. And when you rise, you inspire others to rise with you. This is the ripple effect of a single warrior who decides to fight the right battles. It spreads. It multiplies. It transforms families, communities, nations. But it begins with you. It begins with the way you face your mornings. It begins with the way you handle adversity when no one is watching. It begins with the promises you keep to yourself, even when it would be easier to break them. Because the true battlefield is invisible. It is not in the headlines, it is not on the news. It is in the choices you make when you are tired, when you are tempted, when you are discouraged. And here is the truth. If you win those small invisible battles, the visible battles of life will not intimidate you. But so many people lose themselves because they underestimate the weight of the small things. They believe the little compromises do not matter. They believe skipping the gym just one day doesn't matter, letting their mind consume negativity doesn't matter, procrastinating on that dream doesn't matter. But it does. Every small surrender compounds. Every small decision to back down weakens your spirit. And the war is won or lost in those daily choices. Think of the great builders of history. Andrew Carnegie, who transformed the steel industry, did not build his empire overnight. It was built brick by brick, decision by decision, years of unseen labor that no one applauded. Walt Disney, who gave the world a kingdom of imagination, was fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity, and lived on pennies before the world knew his name. These were people who kept fighting even when no one was cheering. And this is where most give up. They want instant results. They want applause. But the war requires patience. Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That privilege is earned through persistence. Because the process of becoming will test every part of you. It will burn away what is weak, it will expose what is false, and it will force you to confront every fear you have been running from. But the fire that feels like it is destroying you is actually refining you. Do not run from it. Do not fear it. Trust it. Because the longer you avoid your battles, the bigger they become. Avoid a difficult conversation, and resentment festers. Avoid making a hard decision, and your life becomes filled with regret. Avoid your responsibilities, and they will crush you. But face those things head-on, and you will discover that the enemy was never as big as you thought. This is what every warrior learns. Fear magnifies the challenge, but courage shrinks it. Courage does not mean you are fearless. Courage means you are willing to act in spite of fear. And every time you do, you expand your strength. You build resilience. You begin to see yourself differently. This is why the great leaders of history were so unshakable. They had faced enough adversity that they no longer doubted their ability to rise. Look at Winston Churchill. When Britain faced annihilation in World War II, when the bombs rained down and the world believed defeat was inevitable, he declared, "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender." That speech was not born in a moment of confidence. It was born in a lifetime of fighting inner battles. This is the mindset you must cultivate, because life will test you. It will test you through betrayal, through failure, through loss. There will be moments when you feel abandoned, moments when you feel you cannot go on, moments when the weight seems unbearable. And in those moments, you will be tempted to retreat. You will be tempted to compromise, to numb yourself, to hide. But you cannot hide from life. You can only meet it head-on. And when you do, something miraculous happens. The very things that once terrified you become the very things that strengthen you. Adversity becomes fuel. Setbacks become stepping stones. You begin to see that the war was never against life. The war was against the part of you that wanted to stay small. This is why gratitude is a weapon. Because gratitude turns obstacles into opportunities. Gratitude turns wounds into wisdom. Gratitude gives you the strength to endure hardship without bitterness. When you choose gratitude, you reclaim your power. Because life will not always go your way. People will hurt you. Plans will fail. But gratitude reminds you that even in the darkest valley, you are still learning, still growing, still alive. And as long as you are alive, you can fight. But understand this, Fighting is not always about force. Fighting is about endurance. Fighting is about adaptation. Fighting is about refusing to stay down. It is like water. Water seems soft, yet it carves mountains. Water seems weak, yet it wears down stone. You must be like that, relentless. Because there will be times when you feel like everything is working against you. You will lose people you love. You will face rejection that stings like a blade. You will question whether you are enough. But this is where resilience is born. Resilience is not built in comfort. Resilience is forged in pain. The bamboo tree spends 5 years growing roots underground before it ever breaks the surface. And then, in a single season, it shoots up 90 feet into the sky. Your journey may feel like that. You may be in the season of roots, unseen, underestimated, misunderstood. But if you keep fighting, if you keep doing the work even when no one notices, the breakthrough will come. And when it does, people will call it sudden success. But you will know the truth. You will know it was the years of unseen war that made you unstoppable. Because war is not just about winning. War is about preparation. Every trial you face is preparing you for something greater. But you must keep your vision alive. Because without vision, you will drift. Without vision, the hardships will break you instead of build you. This is why you must be clear about what you are fighting for. Are you fighting for your family? For your freedom? For the impact you want to leave on the world? Clarity is power. When you know why you fight, you can endure almost anything. But when you forget your why, even the smallest challenge will crush you. So write it down. Speak it aloud. Remind yourself every day. Because there will be days when you wake up and do not feel like fighting. And those are the days when you need your why the most.